1 year after the destruction of the superweapon, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, the Peacemaker. He was no longer just a research vessel captain. Now he was Admiral Morrison, leader of the Galactic Defense Alliance. Galaxy had changed completely. Where once there had been only fear of the Devourers, now there was hope. Dozens of species that had hidden for centuries were building new civilizations. But the biggest change was in the Devourers themselves. Admiral, called Commander Lisa Kane from her station. She was now his second in command and one of the best strategic minds in the Alliance. We're getting another request. From who this time? A Devourer hive cluster in the Andromeda sector. They want to negotiate. Morrison smiled. In the past year, 17 different Devourer groups had broken away from the main hive mind. Each group was smaller, thinking more like individuals than a collective. And they were all asking the same thing. How do we stop being monsters? Set. Course for Andromeda, Morrison ordered. The trip took 2 weeks. When they arrived, they found something that would have been impossible a few years ago. A Devourer ship was protecting a planet full of refugees from other Devourer attacks. Leader of this group called itself Fragment 7. It had been part of the main hive mind until the battle at the superweapon. The psychological shock of facing human sacrifice had broken it free from collective thinking. We understand now. Fragment 7 communicated through the ship's translation system. Its voice was like the sound of metal being shaped. We were wrong. We thought strength meant consuming everything. You taught us that real strength means protecting others. Morrison met with Fragment 7 on a neutral space station. The former Devourer looked like a nightmare made of metal and flesh, but it moved carefully, gently. It was trying not to frighten the smaller beings around it. How many of your people have broken free from the hive mind? Morrison asked. Thousands of ship clusters. Maybe millions of individual units. The change spreads faster each day. When one Devourer learns to think as an individual, it teaches others. And the main hive mind? The ones who haven't changed? Fragment 7 made sounds that might have been sadness. They retreat deeper into the galaxy core. They build walls around their thoughts to keep out the infection of individuality. But they grow weaker as more of us leave. Morrison nodded. This was what Dr. Wright had predicted. The concept of self-sacrifice was like a virus in the Devourer. Collective consciousness. Once it started spreading, it couldn't be stopped. What do you want from us? Morrison asked. Teach us how to protect instead of consume. Teach us how to build instead of destroy. We have the knowledge of thousands of species, but we never learned how to use it for good. This was the request Morrison had been hoping for. Over the past year, former Devourers had become some of the Alliance's strongest defenders. They used their vast knowledge to rebuild worlds they had once destroyed. But there was still one problem. The core hive mind, the original Devourers, were still out there. They had retreated to the center of the galaxy and surrounded themselves with defenses. They were weaker now, but they were also more desperate. Fragment 7, Morrison said. We need to end this war completely. Will you help us reach the core? The former Devourer was quiet for a long moment. The core hive mind is our parent, our creator. Fighting it would be like you, fighting your own mother. Sometimes, Morrison said gently, even parents can be wrong. Sometimes children have to save their parents from themselves. 3 months later, the largest fleet in galactic history approached the core of the galaxy. It included ships from 47 different species, including hundreds of former Devourer vessels. At the galaxy's center, they found the source of all the destruction. A massive construct built from the remains of the first worlds the Devourers had ever consumed. It was a city-sized hive mind, the collective consciousness of the original species that had become the first Devourers billions of years ago. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. It wasn't fought with weapons. It was fought with ideas. Dr. Wright, now elderly but still sharp, had developed a new kind of weapon. It was a message broadcast on every frequency, showing the Devourer Corps what they had become and what they could be instead. The message showed the history of the galaxy. It showed beautiful worlds and peaceful species. It showed art and music and love. Then it showed what the Devourers had destroyed. But most importantly, it showed what former Devourers were building now. New worlds. New art. New hope. The Corps. Hive mind fought back, sending waves of despair and hatred. But for every negative emotion they broadcast, the Alliance answered with stories of sacrifice and heroism. Human ships flew directly into the enemy's psychic attacks, their crews willingly, accepting mental damage to deliver messages of hope. Zalari crystals sang songs of peace, even as the enemy tried to shatter their minds. Former Devourers shared their memories of learning to care about others. The battle lasted for days. Not a single shot was fired, but it was the most intense combat any of them had ever experienced. Finally, the core hive mind spoke. Its voice was ancient and tired. "Why?" it asked. "Why do you fight for others when it brings you pain?" Morrison answered personally. "Because that's what makes us alive. That's what makes us matter. We are not just trying to survive. We are trying to make the galaxy better for everyone." There was a long silence. Then, slowly, the massive construct at the galaxy's core began to change. The dark metal softened. The harsh lines became curves. The weapons became gardens. The original Devourer hive mind had made a choice. Instead of consuming, it chose to create. 5 years later, Admiral Morrison stood in the Central Garden on Unity Station, the new capital of the Galactic Alliance. Around him, beings from hundreds of species worked together, building a better future. The station was a marvel of cooperation. Human engineers worked with the news of humanity's victory at Kepler 442 spread across the galaxy faster than light. Species that had hidden from the Devourers for centuries suddenly had hope. But Admiral Stone knew one battle was not enough. 6 months after the first battle, Stone had built the largest war machine in galactic history. Her new headquarters was a massive space station called Unity Base, built in orbit around the Zalari homeworld. The Zalari had become humanity's first alien allies. Their crystal bodies could store massive amounts of information, making them perfect for intelligence work. Elder Vex now worked directly with human commanders, sharing knowledge about the Devourers. "Admiral," Elder Vex said during the daily briefing, "our scouts report that the Devourers have stopped expanding. They are building something." "Building what?" Stone asked. "We don't know, but it's huge. The size of a small planet. They're building it in the Sagittarius sector, near the galactic core." Colonel Ross studied the star maps. "That's where they started, isn't it? Their original hunting ground." "Yes, we believe they're preparing for a final assault. Not just against humans, but against every free species in the galaxy." Stone nodded grimly. She had expected this. "How long do we have?" "Our best estimate is 1 year. 1 year to prepare for the final battle." Stone looked around the briefing room. Human officers sat next to Zalari crystals. At other tables, she could see representatives from 6 other species that had joined the Alliance. The Corvani looked like giant lizards, but they were excellent engineers. The ethereal were beings of pure energy who could pass through solid matter. The Threx were warriors from a high-gravity world, stronger than any human. But the most surprising allies were the Wanderers. These were former Devourer ships that had somehow broken free from the hive mind. They looked like enemy vessels, but they fought alongside humans now. Captain Sarah Kim, one of the Wanderer liaison officers, spoke up. "Admiral, the Wanderers have new information about the Devourer construction project. Go ahead, Captain. It's not just a weapon. It's a new type of ship. They're trying to build a vessel that can absorb entire star systems at once. If they succeed, they could devour the galaxy in months instead of centuries. The room went quiet. Even with all their allies, this was terrible news. Commander Blake, now promoted to Admiral after his success at Kepler 442, had an idea. What if we don't let them finish building it? Explain, Stone said. We've been fighting defensively, responding to their attacks. What if we attack first? Hit them while they're building this superweapon? Dr. Wright, the psychologist, shook his head. That's exactly what they expect us to do. The hive mind understands direct attacks. What confuses them is when we do things that don't make logical sense. Like what? Stone asked. Like splitting our forces when we should concentrate. Them. Like attacking their least important targets while ignoring their most important ones. Like sending our weakest ships against their strongest positions. Elder Vex made musical sounds of understanding. The chaos strategy. Make them think in many directions at once. Over the next months, the Alliance prepared for the strangest military campaign in galactic history. Instead of building one large fleet, they built hundreds of small ones. Instead of training soldiers to fight together, they trained them to fight independently. The key to the plan was something Commander Blake called the Insanity Protocol. Every human commander was given permission to make decisions that seemed completely wrong, as long as they achieved some goal. Lieutenant Sam Torres, now captain of the destroyer Hope, understood this better than most. His ship was part of a squadron, assigned to attack Devourer mining operations in empty space, far from any important targets. Captain, his first officer, Nancy Green, asked, "Why are we attacking worthless asteroids when the enemy is building a superweapon?" "Because," Torres explained, "they expect us to attack the superweapon. When we attack useless targets instead, it breaks their thinking patterns. They have to split their attention." The plan worked better than anyone hoped. Across 50 star systems, human ships attacked Devourer positions that seemed random. The enemy's hive mind, used to logical opponents, couldn't understand the pattern because there was no pattern. Meanwhile, the real attack was happening in a completely different way. Dr. Wright had discovered something important about the Devourer hive mind. It was vulnerable to psychological attack. Every time humans did something self-sacrificing, it caused confusion in their mental network. So he created the Heroes Protocol. Volunteers from across the Alliance signed up for missions they knew would probably kill them. Not because these missions were militarily important, but because they would confuse the enemy's thinking. Captain Morrison, now an admiral himself, led one of these missions. He took a small ship deep into Devourer space and began broadcasting human music, human poetry, and human stories about sacrifice and heroism. The effect on the hive mind was immediate. Devourer ships began making mistakes. Some attacked empty space. Others stopped moving entirely. A few even attacked each other. "It's working," Dr. Wright reported to Admiral Stone. "The concept of individuals dying for others is like poison to their collective consciousness. The more heroic we act, the more confused they become." But the Devourers were learning too. They began to adapt. Some of their ships stopped sharing information with the hive mind, making them immune to psychological attack, but also weaker in battle. The war reached its climax when the Alliance discovered the location of the Devourer super weapon. It was half finished, but already it was the size of Earth's moon. Admiral Stone made the hardest decision of her life. "We're going to ram it." "Ma'am?" Commander Blake asked. "We're going to take our largest ships, load them with every nuclear weapon we have, and crash them into that thing. Direct impact." The Alliance had 60 large ships. Stone asked for volunteers to pilot them on this final mission. She expected maybe a dozen volunteers. She got all 60, captains from every species. Stepped forward. Humans, Zelari, Corvani, even former Devourers. They all volunteered to die to stop the superweapon. The final battle lasted 3 days. While the volunteer ships attacked the superweapon, the rest of the Alliance fleet fought the Devourer defenders. Admiral Stone led the attack personally, piloting the battleship Defiant on its final mission. As her ship approached the superweapon, she opened a channel to the entire galaxy. This is Admiral Patricia Stone of Earth. Today, we show the universe what it means to fight for others. We are not the galaxy's deadliest species because we kill. We are the deadliest species because we are willing to die. A Defiant crashed into the superweapon's power core. The explosion could be seen from 50 light years away. When the light faded, the Devourer superweapon was destroyed. But more importantly, something had changed in the enemy's hive mind. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourers felt something new. They felt fear. Not fear of death, but fear of an enemy they couldn't understand or defeat. And in that moment of fear, some of them began to think as individuals instead of as part of a hive. The galaxy's greatest threat was beginning to change. And it was all because they had finally met a species that put others before themselves. The message from Captain Morrison reached Earth 3 days later. It caused chaos in the Global Defense Council. Admiral Patricia Stone sat at the head of a long table in the Underground Command Center in Colorado. Around her sat the leaders of Earth's military forces. The room was full of angry voices. "This is madness," said Director Carl Mitchell. He led the Pacifist Coalition, a group that believed humans should never fight wars. "We don't even know if this alien threat is real. The evidence is clear," Admiral Stone replied. She was 60 years old and had fought in 3 wars on Earth. Captain Morrison's report shows entire planets have been destroyed. If these Devourers are real, they will eventually reach our space. That could take thousands of years, Mitchell argued. Why should we risk human lives for aliens we've never met? General Roy Parker, head of the Marine Corps, slammed his hand on the table. "Because it's the right thing to do. These Zelari called us for help. When someone calls for help, you answer." The argument went on for hours. Some people wanted to send help. Others wanted to ignore the alien message. But Admiral Stone had already made up her mind. "The decision is made," she announced. "We're sending a fleet." Mitchell stood up angrily. "The Council hasn't voted yet. The Council doesn't need to vote. This is a military decision. Earth is in danger, even if that danger is years away. We stop this threat now, or we fight it later. When it's stronger." Admiral Stone's voice was hard as steel. "I'd rather fight it now." Within hours, every military base on Earth was busy. Ships were prepared for battle. Weapons were loaded. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. The fleet Admiral Stone assembled was the largest in human history. 50 warships, including the pride of the human navy, the battleships Defiant, Retribution, and Last Stand. Each ship carried nuclear weapons, plasma cannons, and the best human technology. Admiral Stone chose her commanders carefully. Commander Ryan Blake would lead the fighter squadrons. He was young but brilliant, and he had never lost a battle. Colonel Nina Ross, the best tactical mind in the military, would plan their attacks. But Admiral Stone knew that human technology might not be enough. The Devourers had absorbed the knowledge of thousands of species. They would have weapons humans couldn't imagine. That's why she made a strange decision. She put Dr. Kevin Wright in charge of psychological warfare. Dr. Wright studied human behavior. He understood why humans fought when other species gave up. "Doctor," Admiral Stone said, I need you to find our enemy's weakness. What makes you think they have one? Dr. Wright asked. Everything has a weakness. The Zalari, said the Devourers, don't understand human behavior. That's our advantage. 3 weeks later, the human fleet reached the Kepler 442 system. What they found was worse than Captain Morrison's report stout. Now only one planet remained. The Zalari homeworld was almost dead. The sun was half its original size. The Devourer ships had grown larger, fed by the matter they had consumed. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the Defiant. Around her, the fleet took battle positions. She opened a channel to all ships. This is Admiral Stone. Today we face an enemy that has destroyed thousands of species. They think we're just another species to absorb. They're wrong. She paused. Today they learn what it means to fight humans. The Devourers noticed the human fleet immediately. The massive ships began to move toward them. As they got closer, the humans could see how terrible they really were. The Devourer ships were not built. They were grown. They looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh. Weapons sprouted from their surfaces like thorns. The largest ship was 10 miles long. Sir, reported the sensor operator, I'm reading massive energy signatures. Those ships have more firepower than our entire fleet. Understood, Admiral Stone said calmly. Commander Blake, launch all fighters. Yes, sir. 200 human fighters launched from the fleet. They were tiny compared to the Devourer ships, like insects attacking elephants. The enemy opened fire first. Beams of energy that could cut through. Mountains shot toward the human fleet. But the human ships didn't run. They charged straight at the enemy. All ships, implement the Blake Protocol. Admiral Stone ordered. The Blake Protocol was something Commander Blake had invented. Instead of fighting in formation like a proper military force, each human ship acted independently. They made decisions. That seemed crazy but worked. One human destroyer flew directly at a Devourer ship and exploded its engines just before impact. The explosion damaged the alien ship badly. The destroyer was destroyed, but its crew had damaged an enemy 100 times their size. Colonel Ross watched the battle from the command ship. Admiral, their weapons are incredibly powerful, but they're not adapting to our tactics. What do you mean? They're fighting like they expect us to be logical, but we're not being logical. We're being human. A squadron of fighters led by Captain Ellen Price attacked one of the large Devourer ships. Instead of running when they took damage, they flew closer. 3 fighters crashed into the alien ship's weapons, destroying them. Price to Fleet Command, Captain Price reported. Her ship was badly damaged. The enemy doesn't understand suicide attacks. When we sacrifice ourselves, they hesitate. It's like they can't process what we're doing. Dr. Wright was listening to all the battle reports. Suddenly, he understood. Admiral, he said excitedly, I know their weakness. Tell me, they're a hive mind. Every decision is logical. Every action serves the group, but humans are individuals. We make decisions that help others, even when it hurts us. The hive mind can't understand self-sacrifice. Admiral Stone smiled. It was a cold, dangerous smile. Then let's give them something they really can't understand. All ships implement the Morrison Protocol. The Morrison Protocol was named after Captain Morrison, who had first answered the Zalari distress call. It was simple. Every human ship would take the most dangerous job available, even if it meant certain death. The human fleet charged the enemy like ancient warriors. Ships exploded around them. Good people died. But for every human ship destroyed, a Devourer ship was damaged or destroyed. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, half the human fleet was gone. But something incredible had happened. The Devourers retreated. For the first time in their existence, the galaxy's greatest predators had met something they couldn't understand, adapt to, or defeat. They had met humans willing to die for strangers. As the enemy ships fled into deep space, Admiral Stone opened a channel to the surviving Zellari on the planet below. "This is Admiral Stone of the human fleet. The immediate threat is over. But this is just the beginning." On the planet, Elder Vex heard the message and made sounds of joy. The humans had done something impossible. They had made the Devourers afraid, but Admiral Stone knew the truth. This was just the first battle in a war that would decide the fate of the galaxy. And for the first time, the galaxy's deadliest species was fighting back. 2 weeks later, the New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What Jake and his crew saw made them sick to their stomachs. The system was dying. Where there should have been 8 planets, only 3 remained. The others were gone. Not destroyed, gone. There was no debris. No asteroid fields. Nothing but empty space where worlds used to be. "My God," whispered Amanda Clark. She stared at the main screen. What could do this? Jake didn't answer. He was watching something that made his blood run cold. Near the system's sun, massive shapes moved like dark clouds. They were ships, but they were huge. Each one was the size of Earth's moon. "Ben, are you getting any signals from the remaining planets?" Jake asked. Ben worked at his station. His face was pale. "Yes, sir. Very weak signals from the 3rd planet. It's the same voice we heard before. The Zellari." "And those things near the sun? No signals at all, sir. It's like they're not even there." Dr. Lisa Kane was studying the sensor readings. "Captain, look at this. Those big ships are not just sitting there. They're feeding." "Feeding?" "They're breaking down the sun's outer layer and absorbing it, eating it piece by piece." Lisa's voice shook. "At this rate, the sun will die in less than a month." Jake made his decision. "Amanda, take a team down to the 3rd planet. Find these Zellari. Talk to them. Learn everything you can about these Devourers." "Sir," Carl Davis said from his station, "those big ships might see us if we get too close." "To the planet? Then we better be careful," Jake said. "Take the small shuttle. Stay low. And Amanda, take Dr. Kane with you. If we're going to talk to aliens, we need our language expert." An hour later, Amanda piloted the shuttle toward the 3rd planet. With her were Dr. Kane, 2 security guards named Pete Wilson and Mary Lopez, and the ship's doctor, Frank Miller. Planet was mostly desert, but they could see some green areas near water. Amanda landed the shuttle in a valley between tall rocks. The air was thin but breathable. They didn't have to look for the Zellari. The Zellari found them. The aliens appeared like magic from behind the rocks. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. They looked like they were made of living crystal. They were tall, maybe 8 feet high, and they glowed with soft blue light. When they moved, they made sounds like wind chimes. "Stay calm," Amanda told her team. "Dr. Kane, you're up." Lisa stepped forward. She had studied the Zellari language during the flight to the planet. She spoke slowly in their musical language. "We are humans. We heard your call for help." The largest Zellari stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was like singing mixed with the sound of breaking glass. Lisa listened carefully and translated. "It says its name is Elder Vex. It is the leader of the survivors. It wants to know if we are really the humans they called." "Tell it yes," Amanda said. Lisa spoke again. Elder Vex made excited sounds. More. Zellari appeared from hiding places. Soon they were surrounded by 50 of the crystal beings. Elder Vex spoke for a long time. Lisa translated piece by piece. "It says they are the last of their kind. The Devourers came 6 months ago. They ate the other planets one by one. The Zellari tried to fight, but their weapons did nothing. The Devourers are too strong." "What exactly are these Devourers?" Amanda asked. Lisa asked the question. Elder Vex's answer made everyone afraid. The Devourers are not just one species. They are many species joined together. A hive mind. Every time they destroy a civilization, they learn from it. They take the knowledge, the technology, even the biology. They become stronger. Amanda felt sick. How many species have they absorbed? Thousands. They have been moving across the galaxy for millions of years. Nothing can stop them. Pete Wilson, one of the security guards, asked, "Then why did they call us? What makes humans special?" Lisa asked Elder Vex. The alien's answer surprised everyone. The Zalari have been listening to human radio signals for 50 years. They learned about human culture from your television shows and movies. They noticed something strange about humans. What? Amanda asked. Every other species in the galaxy builds civilization through cooperation and peace. But humans are different. Humans make entertainment about war, about fighting impossible battles and winning, about individuals dying to save others. The Zalari realized that humans evolved from predators, not herd animals. Lisa continued translating. Elder Vex says the Devourers have never faced a species like humans. All the species they destroyed were peaceful. They solved problems by working together and finding compromise. But humans solve problems by fighting. Dr. Miller laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. So they called the galaxy's most violent species to fight their war. Not violent, Lisa said, still translating. According to Elder Vex, humans are not more violent than other species. But you are different in one important way. You fight even when you cannot win. Other species surrender when defeat is certain. Humans keep fighting. Elder Vex made more sounds. Lisa listened, and her face went white. What? Amanda demanded. The Devourers learned this too. They studied human broadcasts. That's why they're afraid. Afraid? Those things that eat planets are afraid of us? Lisa nodded. Elder Vex says the Devourers understand cooperation and logic. They understand species. That surrender when defeat is certain. But they don't understand the human concept of dying for others. It confuses them. It breaks their thinking patterns. Amanda looked up at the sky. She could see the dark shapes of the Devourer ships, even in daylight. How long before they finish? Eating the sun? Lisa asked. Elder Vex answered. 27 days. Amanda made her decision. Dr. Kane, tell Elder Vex that we're going back to our ship. We're going to call for help. Tell it that if humans are really the galaxy's deadliest species, then it's about to find out what that means. As they walked back to their shuttle, Pete Wilson asked, "Ma'am, do you really think we can fight those things?" Amanda looked at the dying sun. "I don't know, Pete, but I know one thing. We're about to show this galaxy what happens when you threaten people who called humans for help." Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair on the bridge of the New Horizon. The ship was quiet tonight. Most of the crew was sleeping. Only the night shift was awake, watching the empty space around them. Jake liked these quiet hours. They gave him time to think that the New Horizon was a research ship. It was not built for fighting. It was built for exploring. For the past 3 years, Jake and his crew had been studying the edge of known space. They looked for new planets. They studied strange signals from faraway stars. It was peaceful work, but Jake sometimes missed the excitement of his old military days. Ben Harper was working at the communication station. He was young, maybe 25 years old. He had joined the crew just 6 months ago. Ben was good with radios and signals. He could find messages in the static that others missed. "Captain," Ben said suddenly. His voice was excited. "I'm getting something strange here." Jake stood up and walked over to Ben's station. "What kind of strange?" "It's weak, sir. Very weak. but it's using the universal distress code. Ben pressed some buttons and the static got clearer. I think someone is asking for help. Dr. Lisa Kane heard them talking. She was the ship's language expert. She could speak 12 different languages from Earth. She also studied alien languages. Though humans had never met any real aliens yet, Lisa was smart and careful. She never jumped to conclusions. Let me hear it, Lisa said. She put on headphones and listened carefully. Her face grew serious. This is not from any human ship. Are you sure? Jake asked. Lisa nodded. The patterns are all wrong. Human voices make sounds in a certain way. This is different. Very different. She listened more. It's definitely the distress code, but the voice making it is not human. Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact with aliens was something every space captain dreamed about. But a distress call meant trouble. Big trouble. Can you clean up the signal? Jake asked Ben. I'm trying, sir. Ben worked at his controls. Slowly, the static got quieter. The voice got clearer. It was a strange voice. It sounded like music mixed with the sound of breaking glass. Lisa worked with Ben for 2 hours. They used every trick they knew to make the message clearer. Finally, they had something they could understand. The voice was desperate. Even though it was alien, the fear came through clearly. Lisa translated as best she could. Help us, the voice sighed. Please help us. We are the Zalari. Our worlds are dying. The Devourers have come. They eat everything. They eat planets. They eat stars. 17 species have fallen. We are the last in our system. Jake felt cold. 17 species? Lisa kept translating. We have heard whispers about a species called humans. They say you are different. They say you fight when others run. They say you are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Please, if you can hear this, help us. We have nowhere else to turn. The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at each other. Sir, Ben said quietly, the signal came from the Kepler 442 system. That's about 40 light years from here. Jake knew about Kepler 442. It was a star system with several planets. Earth scientists thought some of those planets might have life. Now they knew for sure. These Devourers, Jake said, what do you think they are? Lisa shook her head. I don't know. But if they can eat planets, they must be incredibly powerful. And if 17 species couldn't stop them ... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Jake walked back to his captain's chair. He had a big decision to make. Earth Command had strict rules about first contact. If humans found aliens, they were supposed to report back to Earth and wait for orders. They were not supposed to get involved in alien problems. But this was different. This was a cry for help. People were dying. Entire species were being wiped out. Sir, said Amanda Clark, his first officer. She had been quiet during the whole thing. What are your orders? Jake looked at his crew. They were all good people. They had families back on Earth. They had signed up for peaceful exploration, not war against unknown monsters. But Jake remembered something his grandfather used to say. His grandfather had been a soldier in the old wars on Earth. He used to tell Jake, when someone calls for help, you answer. That's what makes us human. Ben, Jake said, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what we found. Tell them we're going to investigate. Sir, Amanda said carefully, Earth Command will order us to stay away. You know they will. Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. Then we better leave before their answer gets here. How long to reach the Kepler 442 system? The ship's navigator, Carl Davis, checked his computers. At full speed, about 2 weeks, sir. Then we leave in 1 hour. Wake everyone up. Get the ship ready for a long jump." Jake stood up. "And send one more message to Earth. Tell them this. The galaxy's deadliest species is going to answer the call." Amanda stared at him. "Sir, are we really the galaxy's deadliest species?" Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Entire worlds were being destroyed. And for the first time in galactic history, someone had called humans for help. "I guess we're about to find out," he said.